What is it? The planet Venus? Aeroplanes refueling? A student stunt? Or what? As more and more witnesses line up with claims about unidentified flying objects, World in Action reports from America. There, the government is backing scientists in a growing official concern. A Gallup poll reports that no less than 5 million Americans believe they've seen an unidentified flying object. Another 50 million say they believe UFOs exist. Witnesses include people who have every reason to be telling the truth. People like Bill Powell, an ex-airline pilot of 40 years' experience.
This is the aircraft that I was flying at the time I saw this so-called UFO. It was discus appearing. It had a slight raised dome on top of it. The dome part was, close as I can describe it, it was like a porcelain white. The edge, or the rim, was a very bright red, which was very similar to what we call day-glow red, the type of color they put on the wingtips of aircraft for easier identification. It was completely smooth. There was no projections or portholes or anything of that nature.
You know,
Housewife Jean May saw one too.
and all of a sudden the white star over there got really bright, you know, a really brilliant white, and it lit up the whole field. You could see everything. And it just started coming real slow right across over our heads, and they were looking at it, you know, and I mean, you know, saying, I don't believe what I'm seeing, you know, and the other one was saying, well, I believe it, I think, you know. Nobody knew what to say. Everyone was just standing there just looking at it. Nobody was saying a thing after that. And it just kept right on going, and it just went, and that was it. And there was nothing after that.
Were you scared while it went across?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of, you know, didn't know what to do. You know, we just standing there. We didn't know whether to run to the house or to just to hide. Or, I don't know. It's kind of scary.
Does it make you mad at all that people, maybe some people don't believe you?
Oh, yes. Well, I mean, we know what we saw, and they don't, so they can't say we didn't see it. I mean, we know what we saw. And
We know what we saw is what hundreds of Americans are saying who saw UFOs just this last year all across the United States. Dr. James McDonald, professor of atmospheric physics at the University of Arizona, is one scientist who believes them. In the midst of much professional disbelief, he is a respected scientist who feels the time has come to take a good hard look at the evidence, especially now with the United States experiencing the biggest rash of sightings since the first UFOs were seen back in 1947.
As a scientist, I regard it as extremely urgent, because here is a really unusual problem that is going unattended by the scientific community throughout the world. Apparently the situation is no different in England, Russia. I've been in Australia recently, and I think it's scientifically, well, almost scandalous that we're ignoring this long-standing problem in the way that we in the scientific community have ignored it.
Well, now, what is the attitude of science towards UFOs? I mean, is it beginning to change, or is it still mostly skeptical?
Oh, it's beginning to change, but it is still largely skeptical, and it's quite understandable. They have been assured that the problem has been looked at by official agencies, and it is a problem in which the type of data is less than ideal, to understate it. It's largely reports, subjective reports of witnesses, but, and this is a point I would emphasize after a year-and-a-half study of the problem, when you go to the witnesses in many of these cases, when you sort through, there are so many examples of highly credible witnesses, completely stable people of excellent reputation when you check around a bit, who have seen utterly unconventional objects maneuvering at low or sometimes high altitude, that to regard this as anything but a problem of considerable scientific importance, I think will be to miss something that we've already missed far too long, 20 years.
I don't think you'll ever clear the air to the satisfaction, at least, of the UFO buffs. They want to believe, they're happy believing, let them go on believing. I think it's a great waste of time and money to spend much more time investigating it.
Diametrically opposed to Dr. McDonald's views is Dr. Donald Menzel, astronomer with the Harvard College Observatory at Cambridge, Massachusetts. He has made a personal crusade of debunking UFO sightings.
To go on for year after year trying to prove whether or not these things come from outer space or not. It's clear that they don't, and I'm quite sure that that will be the result of any investigation.
Yes, I would say particularly now, the time has come to take them seriously for several reasons.
An eminent scientist who at one time agreed with Menzel but has now changed his mind is Dr. J. Allen Hynek, head of astronomy at Chicago's Northwestern University.
At one time I thought that reports were confined largely to the United States and that we were undergoing some sort of a bizarre nervous reaction. But their reports have come in now from better than 70 countries. And also scientists are beginning to take a closer look, because the sheer force of the sheer weight, I should say, of the numbers of reports is demanding attention. And as you know, the United States government now has finally moved in that direction by the creation of the Condon Committee at the University of Colorado, which is very seriously studying the problem.
The University of Colorado, a sponsor of the Condon Project, is a world-renowned center for the study of all kinds of atmospheric phenomena. Set up in November of last year, the committee was given $313,000 by the U.S. Air Force and 18 months to prepare what the Air Force hopes will be the last word on the subject of UFOs. The job has turned out to be tougher than expected. Consequently, the budget is to be doubled and the time extended to 2 years. World in Action's camera team was the first ever to be allowed to film these scenes of the committee at work in their offices at Woodbury Hall at the university. Among the project's dozen experts are Director Dr. Edward Condon, formerly physicist with the National Bureau of Standards. Project Coordinator Robert Lowe, formerly with the National Center of Atmospheric Research. Dr. Fred Ayer, nuclear physicist and head of the committee's Field Investigation Unit. Investigator Dr. Roy Craig, physical chemist from the University of Colorado. And Mary Lou Armstrong, administrative assistant to Robert Lowe. Most of the committee's time is taken up with checking out UFO reports, where possible in person. Thousands of feet of interviews are taped on current and past sightings. Everyone's great hope is that someday one of the investigators will be lucky enough to see a UFO firsthand.
Well, that's something we worked very hard on. Not only do we want to find out, but we want to find out quickly. So we set up all kinds of elaborate mechanisms to have people notify us quickly. If the sighting looks interesting, we'll send people at any time of the night, and so that's one of the things we work very hard at.
I'd say that the greatest difficulty about getting anything, the thing that seems most frustrating to me as a physicist, one would like to get direct observational material oneself, that is to say photographs or spectrographs or at least our own people see things. But all of the things that are reported are a very transient duration. They only last for a few minutes, and apparently as many people that do see things get so excited about it that they'll postpone till the next day before they make a report. So that in point of fact, not only have we not ourselves directly seen anything in this effort, but have merely been thereby limited simply to interviewing people. I mean, one does feel frustrated and discouraged at times, but that's not the same as saying that one should give up and quit. There are some very puzzling things that need to be looked into, and we would welcome not only better evidence about them, but also suggestions as to better ways of investigation, how to get there quicker, or how to do this, or how to do that.
Many amateur groups like this one have responded to Condon's appeal for help in chasing down the elusive evidence of UFOs.
Right now I'd like to let you all meet Mr. Bill Donovan from AIR in Poughkeepsie. That's Aerial Investigation Research Organization. So?
Thank you, Larry. First, let me say that
Bill Donovan has no scientific credentials, but spends all his spare time tracking down sightings and filing reports to Condon. In the past year, it has cost him $3,000 of his own money. He has just come across a very unusual sighting made by a local farmer's wife while she was driving her car. The car was damaged and the woman very shaken by the experience.
Now, to reiterate her story in brief, she was traveling home from New Canaan, I believe, or is it Canaan? Canaan, Connecticut, and traveling toward her home in Millerton. So she crossed out of the state of Connecticut into the state of New York. She was only a few minutes from her home. She was traveling north on Route 22. She noticed an object.
Emma Funk reconstructs her strange story on the spot where it happened.
The radio got noisy, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it because it had never bothered me before like that. The further I come, the worse it got. And so I reached down to shut it off, and I had my head down and glancing down to the floor. And I heard a kind of a whizzing noise. And when I looked up, it was right over the radiator in my car. It was coming just though you had it on the string and was pulling it along. That's the way it guided right towards me. I hollered. I took my foot off the gas pedal. The lights went out. The motor stopped. It hit the windshield, went off to the right, and as it glanced at the end of the windshield, the car turned all orange inside and exploded. And all I could think of, my car was blowing up, and that's the last I remember till I was headed back down here. I turned around here somewhere, so I don't know what drive.
What was it like coming down the road at you now? Can you describe that?
Well, when I see it, it was either black or dark blue, and it was fluorescent and had these lights all around it.
Where did it hit the windshield?
Right up in here, right in front of my face.
This is the actual break in the windshield. World in Action asked glass expert John Gray what he thought had caused it.
The glass is broken with a fine, hard object. The radiated lines continued from the center, and just an impact of a hard object.
Do you think it could have been something very hot?
No.
Why do you think that?
I don't think it's hot because there's no fusion or anything that would make it look like it was fused.
How big an object do you think it probably was?
I would say something about 1 inch square or diameter. Stone, rock, or steel.
Have you seen this kind of thing before?
Yes, many times. Very common.
The object came...
Obviously, in Gray's opinion, Emma Funk's car was hit by something far more ordinary than a UFO. However, other details made her experience seem more mysterious than ever. In the opinion of Bill Donovan, her case was definitely worth further investigation.
Bright orange. The headlights went off, the engine failed, and she remembered gripping the steering wheel very tensely, and she passed out. When she came to, 15 minutes later, and this could later be verified, she was down the road 1 mile to the south, facing an opposite direction, and mumbling, "Why did it have to be me? Why did they pick me?"
Afterwards, she couldn't remember anything that happened during those 15 minutes. Did she see more of the UFO, as happened in one similar case? Donovan wanted to find out.
We feel that if we can have her undergo hypnosis, and she has already consented, then perhaps correlation will be verified in so much as perhaps something was done to her that she is not consciously aware of now.
Using hypnosis, Dr. Herbert Spiegel, leading psychiatrist and hypnosis expert, will see if Emma Funk can call up the buried memory by reliving her ride in the car.
Go into a profound trance state, and you look forward with curiosity as to how you can use that experience to uncover your memory of what happened during that period. All right? Now, in a short time, I'm going to touch your forehead, and you will now be able to describe how you're sitting in the car, what direction you were going, and now, minute by minute, you will be able to describe what is going on. Ready? Now, where are you now?
Coming from work.
You're coming from work. Go ahead.
It's a light on 22, turning to the right to go up home. The radio has got a lot of static. I'm shutting it off. I hear a noise.
What kind of noise?
A whizzing noise.
A whizzing noise. All right, now what?
I see something the size of a baseball.
Where do you see that?
Coming towards me.
Toward you now?
Yes.
What would that be?
I don't know. Got lights on it.
Yes?
It's guiding right for me.
Well, you better do something.
Gonna hit the car.
The ball now is going away. Now tell me what you observe.
It's hit the windshield.
Yes?
We're going to the right.
Going to the right.
Something's moving me.
Describe it.
I don't see anything. It's just moving me.
Where is it taking you?
On the road.
Are you still in the car?
Yes. I got my hands on the wheel.
You got your hands on the wheel and something's moving you. All right, now keep yourself alert now and describe for me what's happening.
Why did they pick on me? Why did it have to be me?
Who's they?
The ones that are following me.
The ones that are following you. All right.
Where do they come from, Emma?
Down out of the sky.
Where in the sky?
Up on the moon, I think.
What makes you think they come from the moon?
Because there's people up there as well as there is down here.
You believe in life in the universe?
Yeah.
Do you believe these people are hostile and mean you any harm?
Not all the time.
Why are they interested in you?
I don't know. I'd like to know. I don't know, but they were there.
Ready? Now in a short time, I'm going to count backwards from 3 to 1. And when I do, you will come back to the present time.
Dr. Spiegel has decided to end the session. The memory of the lost 15 minutes remains buried, but he feels sure she was merely suffering a mild hallucination brought on by her fantasy about moon people. The investigation of Emma Funk is over. Another casualty in the discouragingly elusive game of looking for hard evidence of UFOs.
All right.
Some hard evidence, however, does exist. Holes made in a roadway by a UFO during a supposed landing are shown to Dr. McDonald in the office of another amateur research group called NICAP in Washington, D.C.
Evidence like this. These are the actual holes. As you know, a UFO landed on a highway down there. There were 4 altogether. We
You have
three
three of the holes.
Correct.
Took a bit burned.
How does this rank as evidence, Dr. McDonald?
Well, of course, physical evidence is just the just the sort of thing that my scientific colleagues and I too are looking for all the time. Anecdotal data, subjective observations are of great interest and pertinent, but physical evidence is badly needed, and there is more of this than most persons would realize, and most scientists would realize. There are quite a range of magnetic effects. Magnetographs have been driven off scale, watches have been stopped, compasses disturbed, ship's compasses, radio compasses, and so on. Great many cases of disturbance of car engines. Cars have been stopped. I suppose that there must be 100 to 150 rather well-authenticated cases of cars stopped. There have been power disturbances on small systems and large, coincident with, this doesn't prove it, that it's cause and effect, but there are too many instances of malfunctions and disturbances of power systems coincident with objects of an unconventional nature in the vicinity to ignore that category of data. So there really is a much broader range of effects than many persons are aware of, and I've been attempting to check into every one of these as best I can.
How important, for instance, are photographs?
Photographs are potentially very important, but there are many more hoax photos than there are genuine photos. Unfortunately, you can sell a photo, and that possibility opens the doors to fraud and fabrication. NICAP has done a great deal of checking on this, as have other groups, and the University of Colorado is doing a lot of checking. There are a few cases that really seem to stand very close scrutiny, and one of these, for example, is the Heflin photos, photographs taken near Santa Ana, California.
Out on his job as a traffic investigator, Rex Heflin was driving his paneled truck when a UFO appeared.
I first observed it out the left window of the cab, and I thought it was a conventional aircraft at the time. However, just a second or so later, it became obvious it wasn't a conventional type aircraft, and attracted my interest to the point of picking up the camera and actually taking a photo of it as it crossed the road in front of me. And I simply took the camera and aimed a quick picture, and these type come out and are developed out of the camera. Another sequence followed as the object moved across and out the other side, the right-hand side, and it was removed. All of these photos develop outside the camera. Well, this photo is the #1 photo taken through the windshield of the cab, followed by a #2 photo out of the right-hand window, and then, of course, the #3 photo.
How do you feel about your own photographs?
I think they're remarkable photographs, not because I took them, but because what they portray and show. And as far as the rest of it, I could care less as to who believes what, because I know what I saw.
In spite of his obvious integrity, controversy rages about Heflin's photos, as it does about every UFO photo ever taken. Dr. Menzel.
Well, I think this is an excellent example of a fake. It'd be very simple to make it. I don't know what the object is. It looks like a straw hat that somebody tossed up in the air and took a photograph of. It may well be a hubcap. I've seen a number of photographs like this. Not one, but actually hundreds of them that have been clearly faked. I've myself taken my camera out and made many fake pictures which look very convincing, much more convincing than these, as a matter of fact. And then there are many mistaken objects, such as this one, which is a photograph that was taken of a UFO reported over Denver. This was more than 15 years ago. This was taken at my observatory at Climax, Colorado. When the UFO got in that direction, it turned out to be one of these balloons. It's about as high as a 10-story building. It was going at about 100,000 feet, and that was it. And here is a case of the sundogs that I mentioned. The bright object down here is a reflection of the sun in ice crystals.
According to Menzel, movies of fake UFOs can be made even more easily than still pictures. Here, aiming a camera at the sun, he creates multiple reflections of the sun inside the camera lenses. The effect, he says, is like a whole squadron of flying saucers. Other fakery is very much more obvious.
I remember one picture that I was shown by a UFO buff in South Africa a few years ago, and I could still see the brand of the car on the hubcap. It was so poorly faked.
Well, science doesn't want to sanctify it because it regards the evidence as not good scientific evidence. So you have a vicious cycle that's not very common in science. We don't usually move ahead into areas this way in science. And so the problem is how to take an originally subjectively reported category of data of most unusual nature and convince scientists that they ought to take it seriously.
Astronomer J. Allen Hynek.
This whole UFO phenomenon could be more important to the human race than the life of Copernicus. But this is what makes it interesting. We don't know. And as any scientist will tell you, if you know the answers in advance, it's not research. The whole point, and the only thing that I've been calling for all this time now, these several years, has been that scientific research be done, rather than to just take it lightly and shrug it off as nonsense.
My effort has been to personally investigate cases, check, for example, many NICAP cases and other cases here and in other parts of the world as best I can, and some of them I feel I've done quite a thorough check, and find out for myself whether the accounts are as provocative and as unusual as they seem to be. My finding is that they are indeed provocative and unusual.
Like I say, I mainly concentrated on trying to see into the craft from the distance we were at. I believe I could have hit it with a pistol if I had to.
It was that large. It revolved. The whole front seemed to revolve with the most brilliant, beautiful lights I have ever seen in my life.
And it came to an abrupt stop and just hovered there, and I watched it for quite a while, and I took my binoculars out, and I put, when I first looked at it, it was too bright to look at with just the binoculars, so I had some green filters I put on the lens.
It had numerous lights rotating around it, also satelliting it. There were all sorts of colors, red, blue, orange in the lights.
And saw us. It was absolutely straight trajectory that went right northwest and left a corkscrew trail. Now, we watched that trail for 11 minutes.